She came there, she said, I'm the House Speaker, and I'm here to show U.S. is supporting Taiwan. If she wanted to visit, and let's say if she visited and didn't make those statements, because what happens is when the Chinese responded to Pelosi visiting Taiwan,
because of her political stance.
Exactly.
我是王炳忠，王炳忠来了。
It's my distinguished opportunity to meet and interview my friend Thomas Poken, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and maybe let me introduce you
Sure.
first to my audience. I can call you Tom, right?
Yes, of course.
Tom is a friend of Chinese people, and Tom is a commentator, journalist, and columnist, right? Analyst.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah,
I do consulting.
analysis on cross-strait relations and Asia-Pacific issues.
Sure.
And you're based in Beijing now. You're pro-conservative.
Yes,
in
a
your,
Republican.
Political thinking,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, but you still prefer China
Sure.
rather than Western culture in some aspects,
Sure,
right?
sure.
I think one of the reasons why you think in this way is because you like harmony.
Yes, and it's also about this concept of real peace. There's actually right now in the Republican Party a major division between Trump and the establishment Republican Party. Now everyone thinks of Trump as this guy who's loud, who's obnoxious, who just annoys people, and so people get upset. But the real reasons I think people are upset at Trump is because he's actually pro-peace. He is against the military-industrial complex. He has come to the realization that the neoconservative agenda of the Republican Party, and that has now become part of the Democrat Party, as you see with Biden, they're embracing this neoconservative agenda that is very very aggressive about supporting defense contractors.
Yes.
And this is what you see in Ukraine with the proxy wars. So what I'd like the viewers to understand is not all Republicans are pro-war. There is actually a very big battle in the Republican Party. That is, there are pro-peace Republicans and there are pro-war Republicans.
Republicans,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
and the neoconservative
is the pro-war side.
pro-war side. Okay,
Yeah.
I got it. And maybe even Biden is a
Yes.
Democrat.
They
He's
starting to- exactly.
Neoconservative.
Yes, yes.
Just,
And see,
citizen.
what's really shocking, and this is why I think RFK Jr., he is now supporting the pro-peace Democrat side. So he's also fighting against the neoconservatives. So this is going to be also an interesting dynamic to watch on the Democrat side, because Biden and his supporters are supporting the pro-military agenda, but RFK Jr. does not.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
quite also
Yeah.
weird, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because a long time ago, it used to be the Democrats
Yes.
who were anti-war, who were anti-defense, who were anti-military complex. But in reality, nowadays, the script has been flipped, and it's actually more Democrats than Republicans are in favor of this
Yes,
pro-military
yes.
agenda.
Yeah. I can also share with you a kind of paradox in Taiwan's politics.
Sure.
I think what Ma Ying-jeou, his peace policy,
Yeah.
indeed postponed the agenda of unification.
Sure.
Yeah, but pro-independence supporters and DPP criticized
Okay.
that Ma Ying-jeou is a follower of Communist Party of China. But
I
indeed,
paid
he
attention to that, yes.
postponed
Yeah.
the agenda of unification.
Sure.
And in some way, you can say he's a real pro-independence in some way, right?
Well,
Ma
I mean,
Ying-jeou.
well, according to my analysis, and as I said, I am doing this analysis not according to what I'm no longer with the Chinese media, and I just want to make that clear, because when I speak publicly, I'm speaking my mind and from what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
My real opinion, after also visiting Taiwan, is not about supporting pro-unification. It's about supporting peace. So if it means a delay, to keep the peace, I would prefer that. So what you describe with Ma is a strategy I would support as well if I was in his situation.
You will support his strategy.
If I was
for
in his
peace.
situation.
Yeah.
Because I believe that if you sometimes push the pro-unification, this may create that inevitable conflict. So do you want the conflict now? Or is it possible that maybe later, as people start to adapt to maybe that China is not as bad, that maybe that unification could happen down the road. But I believe that if you try to make it happen too soon, it would be too much of a shock.
Yeah, but it's very, very weird and paradoxical, right? Because DPP cannot accept Ma Ying-jeou's peace policy because they want to win election.
Sure.
So they cannot recognize Ma's policy.
Of course.
And also the United States. Maybe we can talk about the United States role in cross-strait relations.
Okay.
Because some people will say the United States is an obstacle to Chinese unification. But in my opinion, I think, yes, on the one hand, the United States is really an obstacle to peaceful unification.
Okay.
But on the other hand, the United States is a promoter for unification by force.
Supposedly, the U.S. does not want to spark a conflict. Okay? So, from what I heard, that when the DPP starts talking too strongly about pro-independence, that this does not make some people happy. Okay? Now, as I said, this is just sort of an argument I heard. And I think there's a certain level of truth to it because, let's face it, if you want a war, you're going to fight. If China wanted a war, they would have invaded already. Okay? Or if you want that real conflict, you're going to do what Putin did. He went into Ukraine and just invaded. That's how most wars start. Most wars are a surprise. You wake up one morning and you discover there's a war. Okay?
And the war occurs.
So by understanding this concept, what I'm trying to get at is that when, even though it may look like the U.S. is trying to spark a conflict, it is quite possible that they are aware that of the harm, and it's the same with the Beijing side as well. Okay, yeah, if they invaded Taiwan, within a week they could have control of the island. But there will be a response. Other countries will get involved. Even if countries say they're not going to defend Taiwan, there will be a war. Okay?
Yes.
So both U.S. and China has to take these issues into consideration. So at times there's this comment. I think what sometimes the U.S. side makes a mistake on is they use this argument that, oh, we have to be tough to China just to let them know that they can't push us around. Okay? But sometimes they take it too far.
I think the original factor is the United States cannot accept Ma Ying-jeou's policy of peace anymore because after, I think, 2012, the United States started the strategy of so-called Asia-Pacific rebalancing.
Yes.
And the United States think we need to come back to Asia, to East Asia, and think of China as a rival or even an enemy. So Taiwan seems to be a very useful tool for the United States to be against China. And even just a political show, it's beneficial to American politicians. So both Republicans and Democrats like this game and competing with each other, right? So Ma Ying-jeou's peace policy seems to be useless for those American politicians. They tend to challenge, to change the status quo.
I think, and I've seen this with the Chinese side as well, and I've always tried to advise them, stay calm. But all these terrible words were said. It's just words. That's our culture. You can, if you ever want to hear about how our culture is, it's the same. Sometimes I'll talk big. We Americans love to boast. Okay? So if we're going to start insulting, we're going to come up with the best insults ever. Does it mean we're serious? No, actually we're just letting off steam. Okay? So what I'm getting at is that there is a constant tendency among the Chinese and also the Taiwanese and many people all over that they sometimes take America's words too seriously. Okay?
Yeah, got
so
it.
just, I have to always advise all the time when I'm talking to people, just stay calm. It's just talk. You know, my wife has been married to me for many years. She knows that when I start talking like this,
but I think
that
for
it just is. Yeah.
You know, for those American experts, especially those
well, that's what
policymakers,
really
they know
bothers
that.
me. That's why I do what I do. because I'm fighting against those I'm going to call them idiots. I don't care that I'm saying idiot, because they are. A lot of these so-called China experts who are based in Washington, D.C. are just idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. And then you look at their backgrounds. How often do they actually visit China? Maybe once or twice a year at most. And then it's always to come to fancy hotels, to go to give fancy speeches and meet, rich people here, and they're only talking to the people who agree with them already.
Yes, and then learned what China is just from newspaper.
I lived here. Okay, maybe I can't speak Chinese. It's just I have a learning disability on some things. I know some people will say that, so I have to address that issue.
Okay.
But I have been living among the Chinese. I have a Chinese wife. My son can speak Chinese and he can speak English. And I live among the Chinese people. I live in a building where I'm the only foreigner there, probably an entire compound.
You're the only foreigner.
Yeah, okay. I live with the regular Chinese people.
So you're just living China, real life.
Real life. And so what you discover is you have to live that part of your life to really understand a country. So a lot of people who do the travel, go to the fancy hotels, go to the meetings of elite people, what ends up happening is they live in this type of bubble. And so they don't know how to think outside the box. So what ends up happening is with a lot of these elitist Americans who are claiming they are experts on China are totally clueless. Many times I get asked by people, oh, this expert said this, Tom, what's your opinion? And it's like, why should I even waste my time? It's such stupid logic. They're not even, they didn't even talk to regular Chinese people.
I got it. Yeah. But how about your opinion on Americans' policy toward Taiwan, including such as Nancy Pelosi?
Well, I mean, I'm a Republican, so I'm not a Pelosi fan from the beginning, okay?
Okay.
But I do agree with what some people in Taiwan have said is people have the right and the freedom of movement.
They will think it's not very serious.
Well, I understand, but I mean, that argument is, what I'm getting at is the simple argument being that if somebody wants to visit Taiwan, let them. If somebody from Taiwan wants to visit U.S., let them. I'm just saying that if on a freedom of movement, that is okay. But I have met some people who told me when Pelosi came to Taiwan, she was obviously trying to spark conflict. Now that's different. Okay? So I think that everyone has the right in the freedom of movement, and because we suffered under zero COVID, I'm really sensitive about the freedom of movement issue. I really support it. It doesn't matter to anyone. As long as you're not a prisoner and you didn't commit crimes, you have the right to go anywhere you want to go if you can get a visa or you're allowed to go. But it was obvious that Pelosi went there to spark conflict. Now that in itself is what the big issue is to address. She came there, she said, I'm the House Speaker, and I'm here to show U.S. is supporting Taiwan. But from that angle, yes, it is a problem. But if she wanted to visit, and let's say if she visited and didn't make those statements,
okay,
you see what I'm getting at?
I got it.
This is what has to be addressed. Because what happens is when the Chinese responded to Pelosi visiting Taiwan,
because of her political stance.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's about her statements. It's not about her being there.
Yeah.
That's how I want to address.
I think what you said is the key point.